Hello, everyone. This is Kevin Johnson of Leverage Consulting bringing you the next episode of the Organizational Excellence Podcast. So today, I got a real zinger for you, something that I have been dealing with, talking about, and responding to for literally 20 years. So I've been in the consulting world for about 20 years, and in working with many of the medical and dental practices around the country, there's one question that comes up, and I believe with a lot of the people that gravitate to the world of medicine and dentistry, the people who have decided to make this a career, they've got a real conflict. And the conflict is providing some level of care for the patients that they see and doing what's in the best interest of the patient, but yet also running a business. I'm sure that some of you listening to this have already started to hit home a little bit. This whole podcast was sparked by me reading a post the other day inside of basically a Facebook forum, if you will. And in the forum, that someone posed the question of what's your thoughts on production goals and how does that impact your practice, or is it a problem? Do you follow them? That type thing. I wanted to use today as an opportunity to share what I typically share with clients. And that is, and I use the title, the dichotomy of production goals in clinical dentistry or clinical medicine. And there is a little bit of a conflict, but I think most of you may realize that going into the world of dentistry and medicine is not cheap. I have a family member that is in dental school, and they're going to graduate with somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 worth of debt. I'll repeat that. $500,000 to $600,000 worth of debt. So we also have a business, and I'm just curious, show of hands. I want to see everyone raise their hand, those of you who are interested in getting a raise sometime down the road. I want to see a show of hands of those of you who are interested in upgrading your phone system, getting the new whiz-bang piece of equipment that you saw when you were at one of the trade shows. Those of you who look around your office and say, okay, we decorated this place 5 to 10 years ago, and it's time for a minor facelift. I can go on. All those things require money. You are running a business. And I can guarantee you there isn't a one person that works in your practice that says, you know what, don't worry about me. I'm good. I'll keep coming back even though you stop paying me. I know there's not a person out there that feels that way. So, point is, money makes the world go round, but as a team, we also have to do a phenomenal job of balancing patient needs and balancing that against our business needs. And the interesting thing also, I think, is that most of the patients that walk in your practice have some level of expectation of what they're going to see, hear, and experience while they're there, which again, isn't free. The point is, with the production goals, there's a really good quote. I'm not going to give it to you exactly the way it goes, but essentially, if you want things to improve, give people a tool. Production goals are nothing more than a tool. I would hope that not one of my clients would go out and create some type of diagnosis and propose a treatment plan to a patient that the patient doesn't need. And when I say I hope they don't, that was a little bit of my sarcasm. Some of you who know me know that I'm a little bit dry. But point is, whenever we create production goals, it's never under the umbrella of go out and make stuff up. Go give people things they don't need. Present things people don't need. No, the point of it is to drive us and to push the team to focus on things that are going to get the practice ahead. And again, oftentimes, things that are tied to doing the right things for patients. So, for example, in the 300 some odd million of us in the United States, about 2/3 of us have some level of gum disease. 2/3, 60-some%, have gum disease. Yet when we go into a practice, do we have a full-blown, awesome periodontal maintenance system in our practice? Do we have a great way of measuring pocket depths? Do we have a great way of communicating to the patient whether their pockets are improving or getting worse? Do we have a way of bringing patients in, with more frequent visits and things like that? Do we have a system in place to do that? I'm not suggesting we go out and diagnose periodontal disease that isn't there, but yet using a goal, if 60-some% of the population has some type of gum disease, then if we said we wanted to do X number of scaling and root planings per month, it wouldn't be inconceivable that we could do so with the population percentages the way they are. Same way with dental implants. If you place dental implants, if you said you want to place 400 this year, no one's suggesting we rip out teeth so we can place implants. No. What it really does oftentimes is it forces us to start looking at the system and saying, are we prepared to place 400 implants? When we're placing 400 implants per year, we may need a new and different job description for someone in our practice. We may need to modify our schedule to meet a procedure goal. We may need marketing to help let everyone know that we're your office for dental implants. The production goals are there for a daily guidance. It may be no different than if you said, I'm going to lose 10 pounds and you step on the scale every day. That production goal is there to help guide us on a day-to-day basis. So when we get to the end of the month, it's no surprise. We met, or we already knew long before we got to the end of the month that we missed our production goal. And if we did, what are we going to do about it next month to potentially make up for the missed production goal? Totally understand where everyone comes from when they're concerned about production goals influencing clinical dentistry. Again, I've never run into it, and I really doubt it, but I think, said with all due love and respect to those of you who kind of err on the side of clinical dentistry and not so much with the production goals, I think sometimes it's a little bit of an excuse, or maybe it's a level of discomfort that we don't want to go to totally production goal-based. And I think, again, in the world of dentistry, we kind of look at things and think, well, everything is black and white. And any of us who have lived longer than a day have probably realized that our life is completely gray. It's just different shades of gray from one day to the next. So highly recommend production goals for every practice. Again, it's a great daily focus for us to meet goals that we've set for the practice. It's a way to reevaluate systems and scripting and job descriptions. It's a way for us to end our year with a result that's no surprise to us. With those production goals, it allows the entire team to get behind it as opposed to looking back and saying, okay, well, we had a really bad month and let's single one or two people out and say it's probably because of something you did or did not do. When we set production goals, it's something that we work on as a team. If you're a general dental practice, your hygienist can get behind it, your clinical assistants can get behind it, your dentist can get behind it, your administrative team can get behind it. If you're a specialty practice, your treatment coordinators, and again, the doctors, the administrative team, the clinical team, everyone's got some level and role into that production goal. The other thing, and let's not lose sight of this, I probably should have started the podcast with this, people like to win. And how do you know when you've won unless you're measuring against something like a production goal? If you don't have one, again, highly recommend you set up production goals. If you do already have one, is it something you're already exceeding on a regular basis? Maybe we need to rethink that. And sometimes those goals don't necessarily need to be a monetary goal. It might be a procedure type goal. For example, if you're in an oral surgery practice, we want to do X number of cases of thirds. Maybe you want to do 10 sets of thirds on a Friday. If you're, again, into implants, maybe you want to place 4 implants per day. Okay, you add that up throughout the course of the year, and maybe that meets your goal. Use goals. Don't get so worried about the clinical dentistry, and don't get so worried about the fact that someone's suggesting that you do more than what the patient needs. Any of you who've gone into the world of dentistry or the world of medicine, I'm certain when you took that oath and you put that DR in front of your name, you're doing the right thing for the patients. I know that. So when we're doing these, we're trying to manage that dichotomy of clinical versus running a business. So there's your Organizational Excellence podcast. I got another really cool one coming up here shortly. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with more.